Hey, hello, everyone. It's Dr. Tamara Beckford, and welcome to the Dr. Tamara Beckford Show. Woohoo! Alrighty, I am excited because I'm bringing on one of my sister doc who is a rock star, like rock star. Love it, love it, love it. Alrighty, so I know a lot of us, especially in the light of everything that's going on here in Texas, there have been so many people who have felt in the past, right, super comfortable saying, like, hey, I have a job and I'm comfortable and I feel that, right? And you feel as if you have the job at the place and therefore all is well. You know, our parents' era, our grandparents' era, 20, 30, 40 years, you retire, pension, and good. But life has changed a
Yes,
lot.
sure.
So today we're talking about choosing entrepreneurship and autonomy over a good job. A good job, right?
Yes.
Quote, a good job. All right, so we are really going to dive deep into this, some of the decisions that you're making, especially when you're doing it out of fear and you're like, oh my God, am I making the right decisions? Like what it looks like on the other side of all of that. So
Yeah.
this is the doc today. She's a graduate of the UT Health Sciences um, Center Med School in San Antonio. She did a residency. All right, like I tell you, she's a bad mama jammer. So she did a double residency in general surgery. Then she did a 2-year NIH-sponsored research fellowship. And then she also did her fellowship in colorectal surgery at Mount Sinai West in New York City, New York. Yes, that's the song. Right? Yes, Alicia Keys. Okay, not only did she do that, she went and she worked in academics for many years. She also did employed medicine. And this bad mama jamma, who is also a single mom of two lovely girls, was
Mm.
like, you know what? I'm going to open up my own practice. In this day and age, she is the solo practitioner, CEO, and founder and owner of Houston Community Surgical, which is the Houston colorectal surgeon here in the Heights in Houston, Texas.
Woo-woo.
This bad mama jamma is the one and only Dr. Rita Belizaire. Woo!
Hello.
Hello, Dr. Rita. How are you?
Hello, Dr. Beckford. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I am doing well. I'm excited about this conversation. Now I know I've interviewed you a couple times in other platforms, but we're about to get down
All
in
right,
this
let's do
to find out
it.
all about really what makes you like not only such an awesome physician. I personally send patients to her, and had wonderful outcomes. Patients who were really in dire straits, and it was just like, I need something now. I need help, and she's taking
Mhm.
wonderful care of my patients. So this is a very personal interview with someone that I know personally, right? But
Mhm.
I'm going to have you all get to know her on a deeper level. And not only that, I'll get to know even some more things about her. Like the fact that I
Mhm.
know that she graduated from Yale University with a biomedical engineering degree and was on the soccer team. But that's okay. In the light of the Olympics, she could have
I
been out
know,
there
right?
with them, but that's
I already peaked. My athletic prowess is gone at this
you peaked your leather flowers. All right, no worries. So,
point.
talk about now, what made you decide to become a doctor in the first place? Some people might have heard some versions of your story. Others, know and they might feel that they know, but really dive deep into what is it that pulled you towards this profession?
Yeah, first thank you for having me on here and thank you for the introduction. So yeah, my father is a retired surgeon.
Hmm.
I love his story, and I wish it was written down, but he immigrated to the United States. Well, he immigrated from Haiti. So he was born and raised in Haiti. And at age 18, his mother essentially like kicked him out of the country and was like, go get an education. She essentially told him there's only two noble professions, a priest or a doctor.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and he was like,
The noble one was a priest or a doctor.
yeah, she's a very devout woman. So she was like, that's the, so he said, I'm not going to be a priest. I'm going to be a doctor. So he moved to Mexico City at that time with his brother, who was there in medical school. And they did a combination, most countries outside the United States, it's a combination of, college and graduate school at the same time. So he did medical school there, in Spanish, a language he didn't know. So he literally did medical school with like a French Spanish translator. Yeah, the dictionary. Anyway, was there 7 years. Then he ended up doing a rotating internship in Canada, and then landed in the United States for residency. And that's where he met my mom. When she was an ICU nurse, he was a surgeon, a surgical resident. So that's another story, which is actually pretty funny how they met. But so yeah, so I have a medical family. My mother was an ICU nurse. My father is now a retired surgeon. Oh, I wanted to complete his story. So he actually trained in Houston with Dr. DeBakey doing a cardiovascular fellowship in the 80s. And that was when they literally spent their entire ICU residency. They were not able to leave the ICU, period. They could not cross the threshold for like 3 months. So my mom would literally go, the doors would open, she would hand over like food, and then the doors would close. Like, you're not allowed to leave. So they were quite literally residents of the hospital. So anyway, so I have a medical family. So between my mom and my dad, my grandfather, my mom's dad, was an internist. And I have an uncle that was an orthopedic surgeon. And another uncle that's a family medicine doctor in Mexico. So lots of medical in my family. But I grew up, in a small town in West Texas, Midland, Texas, where my father was the only Black surgeon for a long time, if not ever. I don't know. But that's where he had his whole career. And we used to go, I used to go around with him and go shadow with him, go to his office and steal all the candy from the break room and, just stand on the scale, like do all those. I remember growing up, going to his office all the time and going to shadow. And I just thought it was so cool. When he was a surgeon, he would like ask for something and they would just give it to him. I thought that was really cool. And I thought it was super cool, the relationships he had with other people in the hospital, other doctors, the OR nurses, a small town. So like everybody kind of knows everybody. And I just always thought that was so cool that is what he did. And so that kind of gave me the bug that I wanted to be a surgeon. And then, the rest is history.
Oh, so it wasn't even a bug that I wanted to do medicine. It's like the bug was like, I want to be a surgeon.
Yeah.
Like you went like straight there.
Yeah. Straight to surgery. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of people who have had the bug and they went into the medical school with the bug, and then the bug kind of wore off.
Yeah.
But yours didn't.
It didn't. I think we went into surgery probably for different reasons, because when I asked him why he went into surgery, so funny, he didn't speak English when he came to this country to look for a surgical residency. And so he was walking the streets of New York City being like, internal medicine, like, can somebody give me a job? And so he landed at Brooklyn Hospital and they were like, we don't have medicine, but we have a position for surgery. And he's like, I'll take it. And so that's how he began. I was asking, I was like, how did you know? Did you want to? Yeah. And he was like, no, it's what they had.
Was open.
But honestly, like, it couldn't have fit his personality any better, like being a surgeon. But yeah, for me, I think it worked out because there's a lot of, probably similar with ER, honestly, there's a lot of like dopamine hits that you get from the things that we do, and for me, I love using my hands, and that's always been my entire life. So surgery did actually fit in addition to the fact that I saw my dad as a surgeon. But yeah, so, I mean, I think we can go through this, but like the bug of medicine is when you kind of really realize what it means to be a doctor, which in medical school is where you really get a taste of it. And you're kind of going through your 20s and sort of trying to envision your life beyond that. And so sometimes the dream of what we had in medicine is not fitting the actual reality. So I think that's sometimes where the bug goes, tends to go away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, first of all, I love the story that dad's like, yeah, okay. So he's like, so do you want the red pill or the blue pill? Well, we ran out of red pill. There's a blue pill left. You're like, all right, well, I'll take it.
Yes.
But his drive and his passion, but it still manifested and it really diffused throughout the town where you grew up. Him having his family around him, having you, and I know you have sibling, that's there and really drawn to this. So now you've gotten driven to this passion for medicine for different reasons. Like you're very dexterous. You like using your hands to do things, and you're in medical school, went in wanting to do surgery, and have continued. Now, here's
Mhm.
the other part. While you did general surgery, you didn't really stop there. So, what pulled you from just general surgery to saying, you know what, I want to specialize? And what made you specialize in colorectal surgery?
Good question. I get asked that a lot by
Mhm.
patients when I'm examining them. They're like, "Why? How?"
Oh, what
Yeah,
is that? Mind you, the colorectal surgeon
yeah,
during the examination.
yeah. So actually, I chose. So I went to residency at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, and one of the
Mhm.
reasons I even applied there was because in medical school, I really wanted to do pediatric surgery. And so, yeah, because I really enjoyed being around kids. So that kind of was, I actually really loved my pediatric hemonc rotation. And for a period of time, I thought I was going to be a pediatric oncologist and that's all because of the teachers that we
Mm,
had. They just, yeah, they were
experience.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for obvious reasons, I didn't, just a very sad experience. But anyway, so I was like, maybe I'll do pediatric surgery. And so I did a couple of rotations in pediatric surgery. I really loved it there. And so when I applied to residency, I applied to all these different places that had pediatric fellowships. And Cincinnati Children's is a wonderful children's hospital. And so I ended up matching in Cincinnati. But during residency, I sort of liked a little bit of everything. I liked general surgery, obviously. I really liked surgical oncology, so cancer surgery. I really liked trauma surgery. There's a lot of dopamine rush going on there.
Mhm.
I liked colorectal surgery. I liked the bariatric surgery. I kind of liked a little bit of everything. But when I went to, I'll tell this story. When I was a chief resident, I applied to surgical oncology, so cancer, to become a cancer surgeon, and I did not match. And this
Mhm.
was one of the first times where I kind of had to reckon with, failure and
Mhm.
figuring out like what I was going to do with my life after that, and how to kind of learn from that and recover from that. But
Absolutely.
essentially, after I didn't match there, I ended up doing this program through the American College of Surgeons where you do kind of 1 year of acute care surgery. So it's not quite a fellowship, but you're not quite an attending. But I did
Mhm.
have attending privileges. So I did acute care emergency general surgery in the South Bronx at Montefiore. And so that year was a big growth year. And I did a lot of just like emergency general surgery. So lots of gallbladders, lots of, perforated GI tract thing, stomachs, colon, small intestines, bowel obstructions, all the sort of things that people come into the emergency room with that they need surgery for. So I did a
Wow.
ton of that. What I realized during that year, though, is that I wasn't ready to like give up elective surgery. And every time, like, let's say a new colon cancer came in, I had to give it away to the specialist, even though I had, a general surgeon is trained in taking out colons, but there's a
Mhm.
specialty that takes care of it, and that's colorectal surgery. And so I was like, I'm not ready to give up all of that yet. I
Mhm.
still like doing colon surgery. And so I was like, well, let me find a fellowship that's 1 year, that's operative, where I can still be a general surgeon, but I can, like, these cases are not going to be taken away from me. So colorectal surgery sort of made the most sense. I could still do it. There's a lot of overlap with general surgery. You're operating in the abdomen. But the benefit too is that you become more comfortable operating in the pelvis, which can be really hard. And honestly, like the anorectal surgeries are somewhat nuanced. And so I could be trained on how to do that. And so the other thing is that it lent itself to retirement. So I was seeing my dad getting closer to retirement. And it was sort of like if he wasn't operating, he wasn't happy, but the operations that he was doing were like too big that it was exhausting for him. So I was like,
Mhm.
colorectal surgery can lend itself towards retirement. I can stop doing big bad abdominal cases, but I can still do like hemorrhoids, anorectal surgery, colonoscopies, and sort of have like an easier life outside of surgery, but I can still have like sort of have my hands in there and operate and feel the ego boost that I need being a surgeon, right? So that sort of made the most sense to me. So I did that 1 year colorectal fellowship, and sort of my desire to practice colorectal surgery has kind of evolved over
Mhm.
my time since fellowship in what I get to do to take care of patients.
That is a brilliant, brilliant assessment of how you navigated your career during that time.
Yeah.
Wow. And there are a lot of lessons,
Yeah.
that we can pull from this. And one of the big lessons, and I'm glad that you mentioned it, is the lesson about failure. A lot of us with very type A personalities who go into these very high profession, you're used to getting the answers, which is if I work very hard, then I'll be rewarded.
Yes.
And the mindset is like, well, if you're not rewarded, that means you didn't work very hard, which
Right.
is like complete nonsense.
Right. Yes.
Right.
You didn't deserve it.
You
Yes.
didn't deserve it because you didn't work hard enough, because if you worked hard enough, you would have gotten it. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that you acknowledge that, I had my first interaction with failure, which is such a huge, huge, huge lesson, and a
Mm.
lesson that we often try to avoid, but we need to embrace so that we can move on and tap into that same tenacity later on in life when other
Yes.
challenges arise, right? Then you
Oh
tap
yeah.
into, oh, I've been here before. I've made it out before. And I remember this feeling and I remember what I did to get out of it. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
number one. Number two, I loved also that you got the experience and you could have stopped, but you followed what you felt that was true to you.
Hmm.
So you have the experience of, yes, well, you're already a surgeon. Why don't you just stop right here? You're already a surgeon. Not only that, you have like all these cards, right? Boom, surgeon card, boom, female surgeon,
Yeah.
boom, black female surgeon. Why go any further? But you knew true to you that there was more, and you wanted to be able to not just follow in the path, the career path that you lined out for us, which is great, but also be able to enjoy these moments because you've taken so and you've sacrificed so much to get to that
Mhm.
point. Why not be able to enjoy the time that you are working? And
Yeah.
like you said, that like to lose that case just because, well, technically, even though you have the ability, but it's not set for colorectal.
Mhm.
So, it's
Mhm.
only, yeah, you're not a colorectal surgeon, so no, we can't have you
Right.
operate on that. So
Right.
being able to really pull and solidify yourself in a way that you can take care of the types of patients you want, see the cases that you want, and gradually change the dynamic of your career as you age because you recognize, and that's a brilliant thing too. A lot of us, when we're young, we know that we have the time, we have the muscles, but as age catches up, a lot of some of the physical activities we won't be able to do. But
Yeah.
you have decided on a career path to put you in the position to take care of the patients you want to take care of and
Mhm.
transition when your body is not able to. Brilliant.
I mean, and not only that, not even just like the physical, like, as you know, life can change drastically in a moment, and it can change drastically in a year, a couple of years. And so, learning the power of the pivot, it took me a while to kind of really learn that. But obviously, having my first kid, I was like, okay, I don't want to just only be doing these big bad operations. Like I want to be able to do them. I'm still interested in that, but like I also want to have days where it's a little bit easier for me
Mhm.
and I get to go home earlier and not have to go in and round on these big post-op patients. And so there are seasons of life, and so trying to sort of anticipate that before I had kids.
Mhm.
And honestly, it was sort of a testament seeing my dad slowing down. I'm like, and he was really scared about leaving surgery. That was super helpful, unfortunately, for me to see, because I'm like, I'm not gonna want to just like quit one day. I'm gonna
Right.
probably like slow down. So yeah, I
Mhm.
think just honoring the seasons of life that you may be in. You may not always want to be doing 6 hour long cases and rounding all weekend. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a brilliant way to really, to objectify just what medicine is and how medicine is intertwined with our life period.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a part of who we are. It's not the only thing, but it's a
Mhm.
part of who we are, right? And as you
Yeah.
mentioned, you're a mom.
Mhm.
So that comes into play. Now, you also decided that I wanted to have a family and do surgery.
Mhm.
I think most people, and especially those who are in med school right now, probably first year, thinking, as a female, I don't know if this is what I want or how can I balance this. Let's just give them
Mhm.
the honest truth. What are some things that you would say to a med student or something, someone who's a female? Actually, this part is just for females. Guys, we
Mhm.
love you, but let's just be real. This is for the females who wanted to do surgery and is thinking, I'm not sure if this is a lifestyle that I
Yeah.
can really do because it's surgery. What would
Yeah.
you say to that person?
Yeah. Well, I am seeing a lot more guys now interested in having families and all of that. And so, yes, while most of the burden of the homemaking goes to tends to go to the female partner, this could potentially be applicable to anybody. But um, what I have learned is we hear a lot about work-life balance. And I just think that it's not a thing. And I'm not being negative. I just am being realistic. Our
Mm-hmm,
life is like a pie chart.
mm-hmm,
And you just have to be happy with how big each of the wedges are, right? We have limited time. So if you're somebody who really, really, really loves to work and you don't really care about having a personal life or family or whatever, as long as that is what makes you happy, then that doesn't matter if that wedge is taking up the entire circle. I think it'll lead to burnout personally, but if that is what is making you happy in this season of life, then that's fine. You don't have to have a balance where everything is like equally, addressed. If you don't care to, I don't know, have a personal life, then fine. But
right.
that's not how most people are.
Mm-hmm,
We have to just be happy with or mindful of how much time we're giving to each wedge of that pie.
mm-hmm,
So for a lot of people, it's never going to be half and half, or it's never going to be equal amounts. And I don't think that that would make people happy. Some people need a little bit more from their job. They want to focus on their career. They also want to have a family, but they want to focus on their career. And so
mm-hmm,
that wedge at some one point of your life may be a lot bigger. And the socializing or the family part or the travel or whatever other is out there, whatever else you like to have in your life, those just may take up less of your time. And in a certain season of your life, that may be what makes you happy. And then let's say you have kids and you're like, I don't want to work this much. And so that wedge gets a little smaller so that the family wedge can get a little bit bigger. And as long as you're happy, they don't have to be equal sizes, but they have to be what makes you happy. So what I say to, and I will also say this, it is a constant struggle. It's not like, here's my
mm-hmm.
pie chart, I'm done. Like,
Great. I'm thinking about the pie chart, right?
so you get a family illness. That wedge suddenly becomes bigger when you weren't necessarily wanting it to become bigger.
Mm-hmm,
Something falls apart with your house, and you got to like figure out like the home maintenance. The home manager part of your life needs to become bigger when you didn't want it to be. Something happens, a patient has a complication, or you end up a week where you're late at work all day. Like that wedge ends up becoming so it's a constant struggle, and you just have to be very intentional with how this is going to happen, and then realize that there are going to be interruptions. And
mm-hmm,
so there's never a balance. If you're looking for something where it's equal amounts of time, that doesn't really exist unless people are very intentional and then that's how they want it. So I
mm-hmm,
think instead of focusing on work-life balance, you focus on how much do I want this to take up of my like mental and physical energy so that I can be happy and feel as successful as possible in each area of my life. And like I said, that is a complete struggle. I struggle with it all the time.
mm-hmm.
And those of us in medicine struggle with it all the time when it comes to work. And this might lead into your next question, but entrepreneurship was one of the ways that I could make my pie chart feel a little bit happier for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we tap into that, I do want to know, have you experienced the burnout? And if so, what did it look like? Look at that face.
Have you ever talked to anybody on here that has said no to that question? Yes,
Yeah.
I have absolutely experienced burnout. Every resident,
Mm-hmm,
unless you have some like amazing program that addresses this, is going to experience burnout.
mm-hmm,
There's like I said, it's really hard as a physician to not have work interrupt your life at a lot of periods of time. And in addition to that, when it just comes to like the patient care aspect of doctoring, that there's going to be interruptions. But I think an even bigger source, probably the main source of burnout in physicians, is related to employment and how it looks to be an employee when you are a doctor.
Yeah.
Because there are more and more and more and more and more requirements of the physician while getting reimbursed less, while getting less paid time off, while getting less time to recover, while getting less time to even like debrief when something bad happens to a patient. That has never happened. We have never, when I've had a patient have a complication, what do? We talk about it in our morbidity and mortality conference. You get a lot of fingers pointed at you. You're sort of nailed to the cross, and then you've just moved on to the next patient. There's no like, are you okay with like what happened to your patient? There's none of that. And so I think there's a lot of burnout related to the amount of work being asked by the physicians with reduced reimbursement and reduced focus on the wellness, the actual well-being of the physician. And so that leads to burnout very, very, very quickly.
Absolutely.
And then when you add on patient needs on top of that, expectations of patients, they have expectations of us now in medicine the same way they did of like my dad when he was practicing in the 80s, and things are just very different now. Like they could spend more time with patients. You can't afford that, and companies will, employers will make sure that you hear about it if you're spending too much time with the patient and you don't have the throughput with the patient. So there's patient expectations that you will never meet, and then there's corporate expectations that are impossible to meet, and you have your livelihood dangled over your head, to perform in a certain way. And so that's just like an immense recipe for burnout. So yes, for all of those reasons, I have absolutely experienced burnout.
Wow. And like you said, one of the things that you use as a way to be able to pull back control, because one of the things that I've often talked about when I even talk about burnout to the audience in different settings, one of the first tenets that one will notice about burnout is a loss of control.
Yeah.
Is that you start to lose control. It says that either it's like taken away from you or you've given it up. It's either slowly you gave it up and didn't realize until like, whoa, I don't have any control. But you were able to take back some control, and you did that through entrepreneurship. So tell us about that part of your journey.
Yeah. So I think I was experiencing burnout without knowing it, because as we've heard from many of, a lot of the stuff that you talk about, some of our other colleagues talk about, burnout is like a big topic right now in the medical community. And one of the things, especially in women, the way it manifests can look very different than what we think burnout is looking like, right? It could be sleep disturbances. It could be the way we parent our kids. It could be picking up habits that we didn't have before, overeating, undereating, drinking, like things that we didn't used to do. And that's what burnout looks like. Oh my God, I do this all the time. What is it called? Revenge insomnia, where you just stay up and you're scrolling.
Because I deserve to watch this show till 2 a.m. because I've worked so hard throughout the day.
Yeah, and you do deserve it, but at the same time, it's like, it's not a great coping mechanism. But yes, and then it leads to you being exhausted and whatever. Yes. Yeah. But for me, I think I realized what the signs of burnout were when I kind of got rid of those things that were burning me out. So for me, what happened is, after the murder of George Floyd in 2020, lots of companies started trying to integrate DEI programs. Great. What ended up happening with a lot of people is that people that look like you and me were the ones who were put in those positions. For me, I was like, great, yeah, let's do this. I was actually very excited about it. We're finally acknowledging that we need a change, and I get to be the one to lead it. In practice, what that looked like is additional burden. We call this the black tax, right? Or the minority tax, additional burden on that person who is already potentially working just as hard to get the same recognition as their, as other people, other demographics of people. Additional burden put on them to not only start a program without any new resources, but also try to convince, we're in Texas, so trying to convince these people that this is worthy. And so, whereas there may have been good intentions to implement these measures, what ended up happening is the impact was I've got an additional job. I don't get time for it. I don't get an administration. I don't get any teaching. I wasn't sent to any conferences to learn how to implement this. This was all just put on my plate. I was given a little bit of a stipend for it, and that's it. But I wasn't. And so for the longest time, I literally was losing sleep over how am I going to implement this program? And I was feeling like such an imposter. I literally didn't sleep for like almost 2 years.
Wow.
Yes. Because every night I would go to sleep and be like, these people think, and I was in academics. And so it's like, these people think I'm an imposter. I don't belong here, blah, 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 blah. All of this narrative going on in my head. And I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't happy at work. I tried to implement a few things. I didn't get a whole lot of buy-in from the people I asked to help me. And so it was a failure. And then I felt like a failure that I couldn't implement this program. So that was one thing. Where I was burned out. And I just felt like, I was born for academics. This is what I'm supposed to be. Like, why do I feel like this is so hard? I just remember feeling that. Why do I feel like this is so hard? Because I was born for this. I was trained in academics. I did 2 years of research. Like I know how to teach residents. I love being around the residents. I love teaching medical students. I love having even the grand rounds. I get to learn all the time. I knew that was where I was supposed to be. And it wasn't until there was one incident that happened where I'd had a really good year. And again, somebody with imposter syndrome doesn't say things like that, but I'd had a really good year. And we had this bonus structure that was, 50% clinical productivity, and then 50% what are you contributing to the university, right? From either research, teaching, blah, 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 blah perspective. And I felt like I had done a lot that year. I won medical student awards, resident awards. I had started to get these DEI committees set up, and I just thought I had a great year. Then I got my bonus and essentially was told in a numeric value what I was worth to the institution outside of just being a clinical workhorse. And I'm not somebody who's just motivated by money, but when that is their currency, literal currency of what you mean to them, that is where I was like, wow, I'm just a warm body. I'm just a bunch of organs put together under some skin that is doing this work for them. They don't value me. They don't value Ritha Belizaire. So I literally cried in my office when I saw this. And I did a little bit of investigative research, and I'm like, are we is this a post-COVID, we don't got much money, or is this a Ritha thing? And then I found out, people who did less than I did or worked part-time when I was full-time had gotten more than I did. Yes.
Part-time.
Yeah. So I was cried and cried, had a moment of sadness. And then that's when I realized no one is going to ever value me the way I value myself. Absolutely. And as somebody who is dripping in imposter syndrome, that means a lot, because I already probably devalue myself quite a bit. And now I feel even less than that. And so I was like, something's got to change. And so I had a cousin, I still have a cousin, who started her own practice probably about 8 months prior to this incident. And I was like, she's in Cleveland, dermatology. And I was like, Aziza, what am I going to tell me about what you're doing? Is this can I do this? I never knew anybody that had their own practice. To me, that was crazy. Cause also in academics, we're taught oh, it's like a community surgeon or an outside. So you're just so snot.
Them.
I'm but all the community surgeons trained at academic places. So where's the snobbery coming from? But anyway, I was part of it. Again, this is part of the detox that has to happen. But anyway, so then I just started literally knowing zero things about it. I was like, I'm better off starting from scratch, from zero, and valuing myself, taking this massive leap as a single mom. I had some meager savings, not a ton. And I was like, but I cannot feel this way anymore. I can't do it. So we're gonna, and I literally started listening to a podcast that was how to start your own, it's the Private Medical Practice Academy. And she had these bite-sized things. It's get your LLC. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. And so I was literally just taking step by step by step, found the Entre MD podcast, found all the stuff that you guys were doing. And I was like, oh, there's like a lot of people out here doing this.
Mhm.
And then, you find your community and you just learn and you just do it. And even though there are parts that are really, really hard, the freedom I have found in being my own boss and getting to do what I want to do is like, I would, even with all the difficulties there are in, with insurance and starting your own practice and then logistics and HR and all that kind of stuff, I would still never go back to employment. It truly, and it's not for everybody, but for me, that is where I found my freedom. And you can still burn out in this too, but you
Yeah.
can take control of that. I don't have to ask anybody for time off. If I want to close my office right this second, the office is closed. That's it. Do I make money during that time? No, but that is my decision. And and
Absolutely.
and what you realize is the golden handcuffs of your employee and your employed salary, plus the benefits, plus the da 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 da. That's just keeping you there while also taking like a little bit of your soul from you at the same time. So for me, that was the freedom from burnout and freedom to take the steps that I needed to take to try to avoid burnout when I saw it happening.
Wow, what a powerful, powerful story. You know, as you mentioned, you really took the bulls by the horn. And you said, this is Texas.
Yes, it sure is.
And took back control. And you said, amidst all that has happened, you recognize that the decision that you made was not an easy decision. You recognize that the pathway that you are on, it's not necessarily, well, now that I've decided to be my own boss and be an entrepreneur, that life is easy. It's not. But the reward for being in control is worth it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's worth it. And you said that no longer do you have to worry about if you are valued
No.
because
That,
you know, yeah,
that's my boss's problem. She's up,
exactly.
she's up there, but
And
I.
yeah, you recognize the value that you bring to your patients, and then you're getting a direct relation with the patients, and you're
Oh yeah.
able to see the impact that you're having on them, on their lives,
Mhm.
and amidst all of this. So yes, you know that a part-time employee who has contributed somewhat to the institution, and you who work full-time and are taking on additional leadership roles, you don't have to worry numerically who is more valued.
Mm-mm. No, there's nobody that I know of anyway looking over my shoulder. Like I just, that is invaluable. I can make decisions and feel confident in my decisions. And the thing is I didn't leave academics with like, it wasn't like I burned down the place and walked off. Like I still maintain those relationships. I actually still work part-time at the county hospital. I really enjoy still getting to interact with residents. I still interact with the leadership that's there. But it's just different because it's not,
It's from a
it's,
different position.
I'm in a different position. I'm in somewhat of a position of power where, I could take it or leave it, but
Hmm.
I'm there because I want to be there.
Yes.
I get to interact with the people I interact with because I want to interact with them.
Hmm.
And I feel like the way I present myself now to the people that I used to be terrified to like even ask for things is very different. So, and I enjoy it and I can still teach. That's the other thing about being in private practice. When you feel like you're just made for academics, you can still do research. You can still
Hmm.
do clinical trials in your practice. You can still teach. In fact, I have a resident right now that's getting credentialed at some of the surgery centers so she can come with me and just work on her technical skills. There's no, yeah, yeah. And I can still offer that. I'm still good and on good terms with the, program director. And so if there's a resident who wants to have like a private practice elective, I can
Hmm.
offer that if I want to. If I don't want to, then I don't have to. So it's there's a lot of freedom, there's a
Yes.
lot of responsibility, but as many have probably heard, like you choose your hard. The hard
Hmm.
for me was feeling like I had no agency over my life. That was too hard for me.
Hmm.
And so I'm choosing this other hard right now, and I am happier despite it not being easy, I'm much happier.
How have you seen the change within the family dynamic since you've made this decision? Like you said, you have two lovely girls, you're
Yeah.
also a sister, you're a daughter. Like, how have you seen the change in your family dynamic since you made the decision to take back control?
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing that I kind of like always had in mind too was, I kind of mentioned earlier, like my brother and sister and I, we would go to my dad's office, and that's just kind of what we grew up with. We just knew he had an office, and we go to his office, and we go like play around, and we go, steal some candy from the whatever. And so the first time when my office was finally built, and my girl and I have a little candy drawer, my
Mm-hmm.
girls came and they were just like sliding around on like the wheelie chairs. They were, taking the pens and like writing on the paper, and they of course they found the candy, and just like running around my office, and like just kind of taking a step back and looking at that, I was like, that is super cool. Like that's like one of the things I had envisioned. And then my
Mm-hmm.
daughter just graduated pre-K back in May, and they had this whole thing about, each kid got to say what they wanted to be when they grew up. My
Mm-hmm.
daughter Amelia, who's 5, she's very like, she's not doctory, I don't think. Like she's very like princessy, organized, whatever. But she's never ever said that she wanted to be a doctor. And when she went up to the microphone, they were like, "What do you want to be?" She said, "Doctor." And I was like, "Okay." And so I took her
She
home.
gave
I
you
was
like,
like,
what
"Yeah."
else?
I was
What
like,
else do you
"You
think
never
you're gonna
told me you wanted to be a doctor. You want to be a doctor?" She's like, "Yeah, I want to have my own office someday." And I was like, "Dang,
do?
that's awesome." Like she has no idea what I do, but she just knows I have
Oh,
my own office, and she gets to come and play and have candy. So like to me, like it's
so
almost like the
perfect.
yeah, she didn't know what I did before, but now she knows I have my own office. That's what she wants. She wants her own office. And so to me, she's seeing sort of the more that freedom entrepreneurship side, even at the age of 5.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's kind of one thing. The other thing is my dad always asked me, like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you an employee? Like, he didn't get it. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, Dad, people don't have their own practices anymore. That was like a thing in the 80s and the 90s, and little did I know, right?
Yeah.
And so then when I said I was going out on my own, I was like really nervous because I knew it's going to cost a lot of money to get this up and started. And you could just see like the pride like fall over his face. He
Oh.
was just like, he's kind of like, yeah, finally. Like it just, yeah, he was very excited. And so, same with my mom, and even just like there was one time where my dad had to go to the dentist sort of like urgently, and my mom was doing something else, and I happened to not have a very busy office day, and I was like, Mom, I'll go take him. And so I just left my office and I went and I took him to the dentist. That never would have happened before, last minute, and so that ability to sort of just be available when I need to be has been great. And I think as the burnout from employment has sort of worn off, I do think I'm a better parent. And I will say
Mm-hmm.
the other thing I have learned is that this is not something you do mentally on your own. You
Mm-hmm.
need a group of people. You need help. So you need a coach, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not just one coach. There's multiple different coaches. Like you coach a lot on the burnout and getting practices to really run efficiently and happily and retaining staff and all of that. So that's super important. The business coaching, super important. For me, I realized I had ADHD. Like, why did I suddenly sit down and I can't get anything done? I have an ADHD coach. I'm going to start doing some speaking coaching. There's coaches out there for everything. It's a little bit of the wild, wild west, so you got to make sure it's a right fit. But at the same time, there are people out there who want you to succeed, and it is their legacy to see you succeed. So you find those people, you get the help you need. I have a therapist. I mean, like, get all the help. There's so much help out there for you as a person. You're never doing it alone. So when people are like, how do you do this alone? I'm like, I don't do it alone. Yes, I'm one person, but I've got an au pair, I've got a therapist, I've got 3 coaches, I've got all these friends that I can talk to. Like this is not, you see me, but there's all these people that are my safety net. And so you also have to make sure that you're involving all of those people in your life. And once I did that, I became a better mom. I became a better business person. I have my up days and my down days, but like I have that safety net there for when I'm having my lows. And that is super important.
That's a very powerful, powerful reflection in that recognizing, although people are seeing you and saying, well, Dr. Rita, the superwoman, but Dr. Rita
Mhm.
says, I have a safety net of people and this professionals around me to help to make me to lift me up to the person
Exactly.
who you are seeing at this point.
Yes.
So this is not all done individually. And that's
No,
an
not
important thing to say
exactly.
because a lot of times we always feel like I have to do this alone. I have to do this alone.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm, you can't. You can't. And
Mm-hmm.
anybody that says that is either miserable or they're not doing it alone or they're not giving recognition to the people that are allowing them to do it.
Absolutely. Like they said in the book that we're reading right now, one is too low a number for greatness. You definitely need other people around you. Yes,
Yes. Yes.
definitely. Alrighty. So now we're moving on to my fun question of the
Okay.
day.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So if you weren't a doctor, if you weren't, I know, right? You're like, oh, if you weren't a doctor, you weren't doing soccer, if you weren't like doing like dermatology, and I know you like to work with your hands, so I'm gonna allow it. I'm really evil. Like any little thing that I know about you, I'll take it off the table. If you weren't doing like yoga or you weren't, I'll allow you to say drawing because I know I see
Okay.
you. Like Dr. Rita has her pencil case and like 5 different color pens. So I will do with that. There it is. What would you be, Dr. Rita? What would you be?
Okay. So not a lot of people know this about me, but if talent was not, can we eliminate talent being a prerequisite?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Talent is definitely not a prerequisite.
Okay. I would want to be um, like in a Broadway musical. I'd want to be a Broadway musical like singer. Oh my God.
Yes,
Yes. Yes.
yes.
That would be so cool. Yeah.
I would be
That'd
the
be
backup dancer. Like we said, talent did not have to.
cool.
So
Yeah.
I would be the dancer. I think Dr. Tafal, yeah,
Yeah.
Dr. Toyin, Tafal and Chi, she's also going to be dancing. And
Yeah.
so yeah, we have a whole thing. No worries. No
Oh,
worries. We
yeah.
got you.
Oh, I would be singing. I would sing. Well, growing up, I did, as a kid, I was singing all the time, literally all the time. My sister was like, "Can you just stop? Like, just stop singing." Like, I would, or I'd be whistling. That was really annoying to her. But the funny thing is anytime somebody would ask me a question, I would either whistle, like if I had to think about it, I would either whistle or I would sing, and they would think that I'm just not listening to them. But now I'm realizing that it's like Jeopardy music in my head. And so I would just be singing whatever song or whistling. My sister would be like, "Just answer me, stop whistling." And again, something that I didn't realize didn't happen with everybody is that there's always a song in my head, always in my sleep. There's always a song in my head, and so that's apparently like an ADHD thing too. I didn't know that. I just thought
Oh,
everybody always had a song in their
for
head.
that because I have a song for everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Manifest different ways, but so yeah, so like if I could just literally be singing 24/7, that's what I would do. I find
Like,
myself in the grocery store, if there's a song on, I'm just singing out loud. I don't even realize it, and I'm singing out loud. So I think if talent was not
was not a prerequisite.
prerequisite, oh yeah, I'd be like belting out Broadway show tunes on
I
stage.
always admire singers, those who
Yeah.
can harmonize,
Oh
those hear a
yeah.
song and then they just start harmonizing
Oh
with
yeah.
it.
Oh
And
yes.
yes, I recognize I don't have those skills, but I do respect all of you who have that skill.
I mean, I don't have that skill either, but yes, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, we did have a karaoke night at one of our retreats, so we might bring it back. Oh,
Yes.
so
Oh my God. I love karaoke.
I love it. I love it. All righty, Dr. Rita, there are so many people who are impressed with the story, your journey through medicine, your journey even like through if someone didn't even catch it. So even though Dr. Rita, she is private practice colorectal surgeon, she still has maintained the relationship with the academic institution. She how do you even navigate all of that? They're listening and they're wondering like, wow, how can I get in contact with Dr. Rita? Like, oh my gosh, I would love to either know someone who might need a wonderful surgeon like her, or I want to have her at the top of my Rolodex in case anyone
Yeah.
knows needs someone. How can they get
Yeah.
in contact with you?
Absolutely. Thank you. So my practice is named Houston Community Surgical. There's a website, www.houstoncommunitysurgical.com.
Mhm.
All my contact information is on there. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok under Rita Belizaire, MD.
Mhm.
And I'm also on LinkedIn as well. So any of those places, you can get in contact with me. Probably, directly through that email address on the website. If you want to directly get in contact with me, that's there. But I try to engage with people on social media as well. So yeah, any of those places will work.
Love it, love it, love it. So get in contact there with Dr. Rita. She's a wealth of knowledge. If you want a great speaker to even talk about
Mhm.
leadership, women who have gone and risen in leadership position, women who have decided to take back control,
Mhm.
or even not even just women, but just surgery. Like, how is it that one rises up and to become such a successful surgeon and even take back control and through private practice? Definitely get in contact with Dr. Rita. And with this, I do want to, before we end, I do have to let you know that Dr. Rita has celebrated 1 year, her 1 year
Woo!
anniversary with her private practice. And, in an era where we have private practices and we're hearing private practice is dead, oh, Dr. Rita is running, when we say she's running a successful practice, we mean that she's not in the red. So she is doing well. And, in this day and age is something that's definitely something to be admired because there are so many people who are either being laid off in
Yeah.
medicine and
Mhm.
feeling as if all is lost. If
Oh, yeah.
I do not have this safety net of a job,
Yeah.
then there's nothing else I can do. And Dr. Reed is here to show you that when you pull, you can pull back control and take that autonomy and also be successful while you're doing so. So thank you
Yeah.
so much, Dr. Rita, for
Thank
joining
you
us
for
and telling
having
us
me.
your wonderful story. Alrighty. So now I know some people, I know how you guys are. You're like, gosh, Dr. Beckford, I only got this much of it. And it sounded like it was an amazing interview. And I'm like, absolutely it was. But you can catch the entire interview on our Your Caring Docs website on our podcast, which is URCARINGDOCS.com. Select the podcast link. You'll see Dr. Rita's beautiful face, like the boss move. I mean, the beautiful, beautiful picture. Download this episode, send it to 10 of your friends, right? If you on the other end are looking for a dynamic speaker on stress management and burnout prevention for your next event, contact me, Dr. Beckford, at yourcaringdocs.com. So if you want to make your next event your best event, absolutely, I would love, love to do that. Go on our Your Caring Docs website and select work with me, and we'll fill out that form and we'll make it happen for you. Alrighty, thank you so much, Dr. Rita, for stopping by. Thank you so much for
Thank
telling
you
us
for
your
having
wonderful
me.
story, your journey, inspiring others. Like I said, I knew some of it, but I still learned a lot more today. All
Oh,
right.
well, thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
Yes, absolutely. Well, for those of you guys watching, we'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.